Yeah, super, super excited to welcome back to the Vanguard Green Party candidate in North Carolina, Matthew Hoh. And if you guys have been paying any attention to this race, you will know that there's been some major fuckery going on, to say the least, behind the scenes. And we're really excited to hear it straight from Matthew himself about just these incredibly anti-democratic shenanigans that are being orchestrated by, guess who? The Democratic Party. Yeah, the party that's literally named after the concept of democracy. Without further ado, welcome back to the Vanguard. Matthew, how you doing?
Good, good. I'm good. I appreciate all the support we're getting from, here in North Carolina and around the country. Everyone's been so great helping us, supporting us. It's nice to be outraged in the company of others who are also outraged, because this is really it's shocked a lot of people. I mean, I've spoken to people who've been doing politics for 30 years, covering politics for 30 years, and they all say, I've never seen anything like this. And I think it's not the fact that we are surprised that this happened, because you wade into the alligator pit, you're going to get bit, but the brazenness of this, just how smug they were about it, and the attitude of, we're going to do this because we can, and what are you going to do about it? And so I think that's what's surprising us.
Yeah, well, walk us through that, Matthew. For people who aren't necessarily familiar or haven't followed this as rigorously, could you just give us the quick rundown of what happened? You were the last time we talked, you were out collecting signatures. Things seem to be going well. You guys were having a lot of support in North Carolina, people coming out to petition to get you ballot access. If you could just catch everybody up from what happened then to now.
Yeah, sure. So we're out there collecting signatures to get the party on the ballot here in North Carolina. And we ended up collecting 22,500 signatures. We needed 13,865 signatures. And of those 22,500 signatures, 15,953 were validated by the county boards of election. So we were almost 2,100 over the threshold. We met all our deadlines, did everything procedurally correct. These go into the state board of elections for certification on June 1st. The state takes the entire 30 days they have, because there's a statutory July 1st deadline to have this all done. And so not only does the state have to certify, but after certification, we have to then hold a nominating convention. Our folks need to register as Greens as well. Then candidates have to go and file. So we knew this was bad faith anyway, because they scheduled the certification hearing on the very possible last day, giving us less than 24 hours to do all those other things. So bad faith, throughout this. But for 30 days, we worked with the State Board of Elections. They identified irregularities. And if anyone knows anything about petitioning, you're always going to have petitions that are not deemed valid. And that's part of the whole process. And the rule of thumb is, for every 4 you turn in, 1 is not going to be accepted, so 3 out of 4 are verified usually. And this is why you see, if people remember the film Knock This House Down, or whatever it was on Netflix, when AOC goes into the Board of Elections and she needed 2,000 signatures and she brings in 7,000. Right. And as soon as she's leaving, the Democratic Party lawyers are coming in to challenge her. So, that's basically what we expected. What we didn't expect was for the State Board of Elections to take these irregularities, and they pointed to about 200 or so that they identified to us over this 30-day period, and we cooperated with them fully. Take those 200 signatures and then go into the meeting on the last possible day and say, you know what, there are these 200 irregularities. There could be more, but because there's not enough time to investigate further, we're not going to certify you, because tomorrow's a deadline. And that's kind of the crux of what occurred to us.
So essentially they cheated.
I'm sorry?
So essentially that's cheating.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. No, I mean, partisan, and let me be clear, if we were a conservative right-wing party, if we were the Libertarians or the Constitution Party, or I was some type of conservative independent, the roles would have been reversed. And the Board of Elections is composed of 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And so the 3 Democrats voted against us, the 2 Republicans for. But I know if the situation was different, if we were a conservative party, a right-wing movement, that the Republicans would have voted against us, the Democrats for us. And this gets back to the whole idea that the 2-party system is just inherently corrupt, undemocratic, and harmful, and validates. So this overall validates why we're out there, why we're out here doing this, trying to create a multi-party democracy.
I mean, I would say that this instance is proof in the pudding. You know what I'm saying? In case you weren't convinced that our duopoly is incredibly anti-democratic, I think this, case is proof thereof, right? And I wanted to put this up on screen. This is frankly shocking. This is like, Nixon level fuckery, if you want to ask me. Green Party says Democrats used tricks to block them from the ballot. This is coming from the Carolina Journal, reputable site from North Carolina. The North Carolina Green Party had its petition to be recognized as an official party in the state elections denied in a 2 to 3 party line vote as the New York State Board of Elections on June 30th. But the NCGP is crying foul, alleging the Elias Law Group, a powerful firm used by national Democrats, which was also successful in getting North Carolina's election maps thrown out, used lying, bullying, and harassment to influence the decision. And let's take a listen to this leaked phone call. This is absolute insanity. I cannot believe that this is going on in a country, for one, that claims so much to care about democracy. But I mean, think about what the Democrats are doing right now. They're rightfully exposing the tyrannical, fascistic attempt by Donald Trump to stay in power, despite losing the election to Joe Biden. Meanwhile, what are they doing? Well, let's take a listen.
You're calling to confirm whether or not I signed a petition. Mass, who are you calling with? What organization? Oh, is this the Green Party?
Yes.
You're with the Green Party?
Yes, and we have you listed as wanting to get the candidates on the North Carolina ballot. Did you sign that petition?
So you were calling as a representative of the Green Party?
As a volunteer, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I did sign it.
Okay, and would you say you strongly support it or just somewhat support it?
I mean, I don't think I'd sign something unless I strongly support it.
Okay, well, thank you for confirming. Animal participation in elections is important. If the Green Party is on the ballot, it will take votes away from Democrats, giving Republicans a huge advantage that will help them win North Carolina in 2022 and 2024. There's far too much at stake to let this happen. Are you interested in asking to have your name removed from this petition or leave it as is?
I'm confused. So if you're with the Green Party, why are you asking to remove? I'm sorry?
Yes, I totally.
So there you go. Total insanity. You want to talk a little bit about that, Matthew,
Right.
and also the potential of it actually like literally being fraud, something that could be challenged in a court?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is like a parallel effort to what I just described with the State Board of Elections. So about 3 weeks ago, we were notified, a journalist told us that, hey, the Elias Law Firm just received your petitions as part of a public records request. Elias Law Firm is Mark Elias's law firm. Mark Elias, arguably the most prominent Democratic attorney in the country. If you don't know who he is, look him up. But he is... he was John Kerry's general counsel, Hillary Clinton's general counsel, and he has been involved in all kinds of things. Like I said, go read his Wikipedia page. The list is as long as my arm of the things he's been involved with in terms of dirty politics. Really, So anyway, we get notified that, hey, this is going on. They got your records. And so then about 2 weeks ago, we start hearing from people saying, hey, someone called me and asked me to take my name off your petition. And then people started saying, someone called me and said, you guys are telling us to take your name off the petition. And then we start hearing about people getting text messages, right? And it's, the same type of argument that the Greens are good for the Republicans. Abortion is in the ballots. If you don't take your name off, you're going to be the reason why, the Republicans are in power, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, this goes on, and then it becomes that they start showing up at people's homes, including showing up at people's homes who had already told them, no, I don't want you to take my name off the petition. And all throughout this, they sometimes identify themselves as with the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. They sometimes, as you heard, identify themselves as being with the Green Party. They sometimes, as we understand, told people that they were with the State Board of Elections. And at other times, they refused to say who they were with. And, deliberately misleading people in a calculated way to get them to get their names off of the petitions, and they would say things like, Green Party is already on the petition, is already on the ballot. So if you remove your name now, it's okay, right? This really kind of doesn't even make sense how that argument worked, but that's what they would tell people. And so, this is an effort, as I said, that's running parallel to what we dealt with at the State Board of Elections, right? So we're basically have a two-front fight going on here. And we know that the State Board of Elections, Governor Cooper's office, the North Carolina Democratic Party, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, the Elias Law Firm are all working together at some level. And that as we move forward and as we challenge the certification hearing that we just went through, we were denied, and again, a brazenly partisan manner, without evidence, without a chance at due process, all kinds of things that are just awful. We also expect at some point we're going to have to fight the DSCC and the Elias Law Firm, because what they're doing there, what you're hearing there, is they're preparing their own challenges. So if we get certified and get on the ballot by the state, then the Democratic Party comes in and challenges us as an outside party, right? So we're in a fight, against Leviathan here. This is a true David and Goliath. It's a bit flattering that they sent Mark Elias and the people down here right away. I'll say that, there's no one in the bullpen past Mark Elias. So they sent their biggest and baddest right away down here because obviously they feel threatened by us. And it's not me they're threatened by. It's not the North Carolina Green Party they're threatened by. They're threatened by the idea that what we represent, who we represent, will have a voice on the ballot. And that those voices, those issues specifically, and those policies like single payer, affordable housing, annualized living wage, those are real dangerous things, the profits of those who support the Democratic Party and also the Republican Party as well. So that's the reason why they're so threatened by it.
Yeah, it's insane. It's not insane, right? I'm perfectly capable of believing that the corrupt fucking Democratic Party is willing to do absolutely anything to keep people with sincere will of good towards the general population out of office. But it's almost like it feels like we're witnessing like an Aaron Sorkin screenplay unfold, like this like fucking massive levels of corruption. Like, I'm serious. Like, I listened to that audio for the first time and I was like, oh, they're literally just impersonating a Green Party candidate and trying to fearmonger people away and convince them to do it, which is obviously a crime, right? But the thing that I wanted to follow up with you on is this is obviously a huge law firm, right? They're the Democratic Party is heavily resourced, right? They've got a fuck ton of capital at their disposal. If this goes to a battle in the courts, what are they going to do? Just probably make it take like 10 years or something like that. Like, what happens now? I'm not like super well versed in law, but I know that what rich people always do is they try and make it as lengthy of a legal battle as possible so that we get dispirited and that we can no longer afford to like kind of keep it up. Is that what you imagine their game plan will be? And what's the talk on how to combat that?
That's certainly what I would do if I was them. And that's what we've seen them do other places. And so the evidence is there. Look, we have this July 1st deadline again. So even if the courts were to say, hey, you're now certified, the argument will be, well, the July 1st deadline has passed. So we have to relitigate that then and get a court to say, no, this occurred. Right. And then you could have these challenges come up about the fact that, whatever it is that they find, they're deceptive, that North Carolina, one of the things Elias Law Firm in their complaint said, it's ridiculous, but we have to defend it. One of their complaints was that we were out there hiding who we were, right? Absolutely absurd. Absolute nonsense. We had our Green Party t-shirts on and we're giving people buttons. We got our banners and our literature and everything else, right? Completely absurd. But that's something that if they challenge us, we have to go and defend. They can challenge me as a candidate and say, you don't actually live where you live. And then I have to go with my lawyer and go through a whole process to prove that I actually live where I live. And so exactly, Zach, what you were saying, they can draw this out. And we already know this because the state revealed its hand on this in the hearing, that there is a mid-August deadline for the printing of ballots. And that is now at this point, depending on how you define mid-August, anywhere from 5 to 7 weeks away. And so that is, I believe, their last line of defense. So if they can stretch this out to the point where, ballots are being printed, guys, sorry, too bad, come back next year, they feel like they would have won. We've got a great legal team from the Center for Competitive Democracy. We're going to fight this. I wish I could go into specifics, but we can't. But certainly we're gonna use every avenue we have, not just legally, but also administratively and politically, to make sure we have our rightful spot on the ballot in November that we earned. One of the things that angers me the most is our people. 95% of our petitions, our signatures were collected by our people, by our folks who are out there, our Green Party members, my campaign members, socialists, leftists, independents, people who believed in what we were doing. Everything from college kids up to grandmothers were out there killing themselves for months, putting in 10, 20, 30 hours a week to get this done. And that's what upsets me the most and angers me the most, is that is being taken away from them. They earned this. They did it. They did it by the rules that were laid out. They did it because they believed something better was possible. And what they're being faced with is this ugly smugness of the two-party system, this corrupt beast, if you will, that's saying, too bad, we're going to do what we want, do something about it. And so we're going to do something about it.
Fucking criminal. I mean, for one, in my opinion, it should be far, far easier to get on the ballot as a candidate. You should not have to jump through all of these ridiculous hoops. But the fact that you actually did achieve that, the fact that you did get the signatures required, and that you did jump through all those hoops, again, thanks in large part to the volunteer efforts of, the people that were helping out on this campaign. The fact that that all was achieved and that you did, again, jump through these ridiculous hoops that have been set into place, and there's still going to, go about these shenanigans to deny you your spot on the ballot. Yeah. I just find that frankly insane. And again, from a party that cares so much about, or claims to care so much about, democracy, this is democracy in action. You being on the ballot, all of these volunteers collecting signatures, this literally is democracy in action. With that being said, I want to take a look at this race in general. Here's the Ballotpedia page for it, United States Senate election in North Carolina. In case anyone's not familiar with this dynamics at play here, Matthew, could you just talk a little bit about the other candidates in this race who you think will probably take the Democratic nomination, the Republican nomination? Do the Democrats actually have a serious chance, in your estimation, of taking the Senate seat? Is that why they're so terrified of your place on the ballot?
Sure. Looking at that list, only 4 of those people on that list, Sherry Beasley, Ted Budd, myself, and Shannon Bray, actually are involved. The others were independent candidates who, so we had to collect about 14,000 valid signatures to be on as a party. The independents had to collect 83,000 verified signatures to be on as an independent. So unless you're Michael Bloomberg and you got that type of resource and that type of money, you're not getting on the ballot in North Carolina as an independent.
Which again is insane. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, it's set that way. For whatever reason, North Carolina hates independents more than it hates third parties. You go to other states, it's different. We know 50 states, 50 different ways of doing it.
I remember we talked to Lisa Savage, who ran in Maine, and she had to run as an independent because it was easier there to get on the ballot as an independent rather than third party. So yeah, there's interesting state laws.
Right. Yeah. Lisa's a great example of that. There's a Libertarian candidate, Shannon Bray. There's Ted Budd, who's the Republican candidate. He had a close race, or it seemed like a close race until the votes actually came in. He defeated the incumbent, previous governor, not the incumbent governor, previous governor. Budd's big thing is that he's backed by Trump. He's a wealthy guy, owns a gun shop. His TV ads are literally guns and monster trucks. And that's who he is. And he is, like I said, he is in this position. He won his House race because he was a Trump guy. He's been in for 2 terms now, I guess. And he is in this position for Senate because he's Trump's guy. Sherry Beasley is a Democrat. Her race was cleared out for her. You had 3 other candidates who were considered good candidates running against Beasley. They were all more progressive to a degree. She's definitely a centrist, a Joe Biden type Democrat. And in November of last year, as my understanding goes, Chuck Schumer and Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina, started calling around to these candidates. And you saw one drop out, another drop out, and then a third drop out. 2 of those 3 got House races to run in. For dropping out of the Senate race. So the Democrats cleared the way for Beasley. What we've been seeing in the polling is that consistently the Republican is ahead by 7 or 8 points. That's narrowed in the last month. Beasley's been getting bumps because of abortion and guns. but I don't think that's going to hold out for her. She's a terribly uninspiring candidate. She runs as being an outsider. If you look at her TV ads, she talks about she's completely trying to move and get that center right a crowd to vote for her. So she's tough on crime. She's against trafficking. Those are her TV ads. Meanwhile, anything that affects North Carolinians in terms of healthcare, housing, education, jobs is completely vacant and absent from her policies. Like I said, we'll be the only ones who are on the ballot arguing for single payer. We're the only ones on the ballot arguing for rent control. Saying that, living wages, we have to annualize that. It needs to go up every year, tie it into local housing costs. That itself can be a form of rent control. We're the only ones arguing for full education for everyone from pre-K up to you want to be a rocket scientist. I mean, all these types of progressive, leftist, socialist, whatever values, we're the only ones presenting them. And certainly we are the only ones who are representing working families and a huge chunk of the middle class.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that the Democratic candidate, Sherry Beasley, is a pretty uninspired, probably pretty just milquetoast Democrat candidate, like you said, in the mold of Joe Biden. So that definitely doesn't get many people excited. Perhaps if they actually nominated a populist, charismatic candidate that really spoke to the issues that affect voters the most, actually spoke to the needs of working class North Carolinians, they wouldn't even have to worry about you, Matthew. They wouldn't even have to worry about third parties because people would actually be inspired to go vote for their candidate because they actually thought that person would help them. But as we have it, the Democrats know that they have a lame candidate that probably won't win in North Carolina. So now they have to resort to dirty tricks like this in order to improve her odds even infinitesimally. I find that crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, and they've completely abandoned working families. I mean, they've been doing this for decades. I mean, they've been paying lip service towards it. And I think that's, the anger that resides in so many of us. It's because they're lying and they continually lie. And why am I more angry at the Democrats and Republicans? I mean, don't get me wrong. Republicans are absolutely heinous, awful. I mean, just the stuff I agree in a lot of ways with Noam Chomsky when he says the Republican Party is the most dangerous party on the planet right now. I agree with that. But my anger is at the Democrats because they lie and they lie and they lie. And then they do nothing when they're in office, when they have power. I mean, this idea that somehow we're all supposed to be mad at Joe Manchin because he's the sole reason for us not moving into, whether it be an updated minimum wage, climate action, protecting abortion, any of those things is because of Joe Manchin. And then you turn around and you see Joe Manchin's still sitting as the chair of the Senate Energy Committee. I mean, like, how do you even believe that nonsense, that BS, that somehow it's all about Manchin? It's about the party protecting its corporate interests, its biggest donors. Look, I mean, I think this is best exemplified through the January 6th hearings, which are necessary. I wish it wasn't so much theater. I wish it was just the DOJ going after the people that did that. That's really what I wish. And I want to see Trump and his people in jail. Same time, too, I know that January 6th hearings only occur because they do not threaten the profits of the Democrats or the Republicans' donors, right? I mean, they don't threaten the profits of Monsanto. They don't threaten the profits of Raytheon or Goldman or United Healthcare or any of those people. That's why we'll never see hearings on the wars, on the illegal spying that's been conducted on American people, on the catastrophic COVID response, on the war on drugs, on any of these things that have ruined so many millions and millions of American families. We'll never see hearings on those because those would affect the profits of the Democrats and Republicans, the biggest donors. And they know that, but they continue to lie about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what basically that's what it all comes back down to, right? Is what can they get away with to protect the power holders and the oligarchical class of the people that are in power. And yeah, I think what you were describing reminds me a lot of that Simpsons meme that's been going around, right? Where it's like the Democrats have the banner that's like, we can't govern. And then it's like the Republicans have the banner that's like, we support all terrible shit. Like, it's like, which one do you want? Do you want the party that's going to let it happen? Or do you want the party that's egging it on? And a lot of people just decide that they want to be with the party that's winning. So wherever the energy is, they go, and that obviously always protects the corporate interest.
Yeah, I remember years ago, Jon Stewart was running this clip continually when Tom DeLay was the Speaker of the House. where he would compare Tom DeLay to Darth Vader, right? And the idea being the Republicans were the evil empire of the Star Wars saga. And at one point, Stewart says, you know what? To be fair, though, here are the Democrats. And he shows a bunch of Ewoks walking along on a log, and like one falls off the log and everything. Yeah, I mean, like it's, you know, and even that's not a very good analogy or a good example, because that would imply that, you know, to have that be true, the Ewoks would have to be complicit with Wall Street and war like the Democrats are. You know, they'd have to be complicit with the fact that, you know, we have a healthcare system where, right, as we know, 1 in 3 COVID deaths came about because people didn't have healthcare. So 1 in 3 of the million people killed in the last 2 years from COVID were killed by the for-profit healthcare industry. And that's Obamacare. That's the ACA. That's Obama's legacy that killed those people. Yeah. Right. I mean, so I think we have to be clear. And so this idea that somehow we shouldn't have a party, as the argument is, that we're spoilers on the ballot who just even represents that issue. I mean, I think just running on the issue of healthcare is in of itself enough of a reason for someone else to be on the ballot, let alone the host of all the other things, right? Housing, education, the wars overseas, the wars here, the war on drugs, that crime against humanity that's happening at our border, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Matthew, I mean, I think you're a great candidate. Honestly, one of the best third-party candidates we've ever had the pleasure to platform on the Vanguard. So it really does grind my gears what's happened to you, and also, you know, all the volunteer work that you mentioned that went into this candidacy being squandered by the anti-democratic Democratic Party. I guess I just wanted to, you know, let you finish up by letting our audience know how they can help your effort to become the next senator of North Carolina, if in fact you are, you know, going to continue that, what they can do, where they can follow you, any way they can support what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And I should say that this is all part of, it's a very effective strategy they have. By doing this, they demoralize people. They exhaust us, right? I mean, it was hard enough getting the signatures, but then on the back end, now we have to deal with all of this bureaucracy, the administrative, the legal aspects. It exhausts us financially, it exhausts us physically. You know, all my folks are busy focusing on this issue with the State Board of Elections rather than campaigning. So this is by design. And it also, what it does is demoralizes our people. It also scares people from signing petitions. The whole idea is to keep people out of the system, to exclude. And they're very effective at that, right? But if you believe in what I'm saying, if you want to help us in this David versus Goliath fight, if you want us to take on and defeat the Democratic Party machine, please contribute. It's Matthew Hoh for Senate.org, last name spelled H-O-H. I need your help. We can't do this without money. Please donate. Please encourage others to donate. That's the only way. I wish there was another way I could tell you, you know, that we could take on this Leviathan and win, but we need money. We also need volunteers, and we also need people to share about this, tell people about this. And part of that, because I believe that a party in of itself is worthless, that we have to be part of a larger movement. And you all have been doing this for quite a while and are very good at it. And this is one part of that larger body of which a political party is just the arm, is what Zach and Gavin do. So you have to support them, you know, because otherwise I'm not getting on CNN to talk about this, right? I'm getting on places like the Vanguard where I can communicate this, and then you all can spread that out further. So what Zach and Gavin, for our movement, what they do is integral. I mean, in my opinion, this communication piece is the center of the body, right? And then you have one arm is labor organizing, one arm is political parties, a second arm is mutual, a leg is mutual aid, right? The other leg is direct action and civil disobedience, right? I mean, those kinds of things. And you guys are in the center, and all this is able to then circulate out to all the other parts of the body. Well, so I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, please, you all support the Vanguard, Zach and Gavin.